And today, that was my personal introduction to you, from me to you. You are also here as a researcher through many years on the topic of deep democracy and process work. You have published a book based on your doctoral thesis about this, and the thoughts that you have managed to condense in this book is absolutely vital as a foundation for this field, the social pedagogical field. So it's my truest pleasure and deep honor to be able to wish you welcome to the stage, Dr. Julia Olsen.
Thank you. Wow. Det er en glede å være her. And now I'll switch to English. Thank you, Josephine, for the beautiful introduction. Swimming in the river together is one of the great joys of my life. To be in this beautiful space and in this great company together at a research gathering with allies, change makers, working at the frontier of inclusion in higher education. How's the English going so far? So far, so good? Yes. Great. In our little boat today, on our river, we have researchers, we have teachers, we have social care practitioners, we have leaders, administrators, we have clinicians, students, inclusion advocates, friends, activists, and artists. Isn't that amazing? So much diversity. And in a couple of years, when we have our next conference, and we have to hire a big hall in Oslo, because there's no room for everybody here, please remember, I was here, you were here, you got it, you were part of launching this boat. So I want to give it back to you and all of us here. Good for us for being here. Thank you so much, Tak, Inga Maria. Your contribution really frames in such a beautiful human rights perspective everything that I want to say sits underneath, experientially, underneath, this beautiful frame that you gave us. I love your vision for lifting the whole field to be more inclusive, to be at the forefront of studies, even when nobody... I'm Australian, I'm not allowed to say what I was about to say. Even when nobody notices and maybe doesn't care, but we care. And thank you for your work. It's really important and very inspiring. My topic today is power, Macht, Styrke, Ableism, is that right? And Allyship, medspelare or medvandrare. I apologize for my accent, but I think you get the basic idea. And placing these in the focus of evolving the higher education experience to be more friendly and relevant for people with mixed and diverse abilities. Yes, true, people with intellectual disabilities, but actually actually for all of us. Don't we all have mixed abilities? So, a few shared definitions first. 3 simple words that I'll use throughout this little talk. Ability. An ability is anything that you show up with from the inside out, or something on the outside that expresses who you are and how you engage with the world. Ableism is a belief system that values certain abilities over others and diminishes, puts down those who may not meet those norms. This applies to both visible and invisible characteristics. Ableism is just one of many discrimination systems that fills the air we breathe and comes out intentionally and unintentionally. So, most often, we barely notice it. Why can't we all just be equal, you might say? Well, this microphone is the reason. If the microphone is like that, I can't reach it. Someone has to lower it and help me so that I can equally participate. Equality just gets us in the room, but real equity requires flexibility and adaptation. I do want to say one more word about language. Disability is a widely used word, but it doesn't describe a single experience. There are many ways of being, of knowing, of being moved, of sensing, of relating, and expressing ourselves. This word disability, while it is necessary for the framework, beneath the framework in the experience, the word can flatten the sense of diversity that different people carry. For some, the word is a reclaimed identity, and for others, it doesn't fit at all. You might also be wondering why a non-disabled person like me is speaking about disability, and that is a very fair question. My answer is this: if only the people with lived experience carry this work, we risk recreating the very same unequal patterns. Why? Because ableism is something we all swim in, so we all need to carry our share of the cultural load. We often contrast, as I think you did in your talk, the medical and social models of disability, one focusing on fixing individuals, the other on changing environments. The social model in its time was a breakthrough, but on its own, it hasn't changed the world. Why? Because ableism isn't just about a misunderstanding. It's embedded in our systems, our policies, our institutions, who's in this room, who isn't in this room, our funding. It is all part of systemic ableism. It's, in other words, a deep cultural force. So, allyship. Allyship, in my mind, is a joy practice, walking alongside each other for the long haul. This road is not for the faint-hearted. So, welcome, fellow warriors, fellow research, fellow humans in the room. This topic is very close to my heart. Since starting out in the field of education and care over 45 years ago, I've worked in hundreds of teams and organisations and with people across many cultures, geopolitical regions and different systems. Many of these groups and communities and organisations who went through a collapse and a regeneration. That got me very, very interested. We are all familiar with social and structural oppression systems that target particular groups of people. Some of us are born into unearned advantages across money, health, education, looks, ethnic identity, cultural background, who you love, who you hang out with, religion, gender identity, even how our brains are wired. We didn't earn these advantages. They came with the package. These are social powers. Not much we can do to change them. Others live with structural disadvantage, with the very same characteristics, the very same social powers, reduce the ability to participate and contribute our full range of unique and beautiful talents. The very same characteristics that for others give an unearned advantage, meaning we're barely aware of it. So, why, despite the crushing effect of ableism, do some people not only survive, but also seem to thrive and be able to use the setback to make our world a more friendly and exciting and meaningful place to be for many, many more of us? This was my research question, and what I discovered ended up with this book, which has many stories, thanks to some of you also in this room. And you may know this term, the wounded healer. I want to add to that, the wounded educator, because so many of the people who have been my greatest teachers, some of whom are in this room, have taught me upside down learning, which means that I learn from you how to be with you so that you can teach me how I need to shift my way of being with you so we can do it together, so we can be Sama. My big learning has been that access to expressing our inner powers, we know about the social powers, but then there's a whole other set of inner powers, can reduce the psychological impact of social discrimination during the long wait for justice. In the 1990s, I was living and working in South Africa in a shared living community like many of you here know about. And we lived together with over 100 residents with developmental and learning differences alongside each other. As the country was gripped with Nelson Mandela coming out of prison and a resurgence of energy for the dismantling of apartheid and rebuilding a new world, which Mandela called the Rainbow Nation. What also came out at the same time were many, many stories of historical abuse, and victims had the opportunity to meet with their perpetrators and say what it was like. Impact. This is what it felt like. This is what happened in my life. That was under the umbrella of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission set up by Archbishop Desmond Tutu that some of you may know about. At the same time, in our community, as if synchronistically, revelations of past and not so past mobbing and abuses started to pop up. And these were difficult truths to hear from people that we loved and thought were having a great life with us. because we're such caring people. Painful experiences came out from within our own care and education systems. So just like the country was doing, we had to stop, slow down, listen, really listen, feel it, take it in. Slow power. As leaders, we had to find in ourselves the inner power to face injustices of the past and make heartfelt apologies, even for things that most of us weren't even around for, even for things that didn't happen in our own community. This was just the beginning. Step by step, we began to examine and change deep unconscious habits in the way we made excuses because of certain biases we weren't aware of, our so-called awareness gaps, which used to be called blind spots. I'm not sure I should say that word now, that came from this unconscious entitlement, these unconscious advantages, the systemic advantages that created the suffering in the first place. At some point, something shifted. We began to get each other. I didn't just hear you, I get you. That feeling, we get each other. The atmosphere changed, new relief, energy. And with that energy organically emerged, very much like the Reconstruction phase in the New South African society, alongside truth-telling, new ideas, new ways of doing things, genuinely together. Upside down learning. You know what it's like to be you. Teach me how to be me with you. Then something very surprising happened. A young man named Damien came to me very upset. Two of his friends were in deep conflict. He asked if I would talk to them and make them stop fighting. I said, honestly, I can't do that. But if you and your friends would enjoy to get together and talk about conflicts and relationships, I'd be happy to join you. I call this the power to make conflict fruitful. Finding meaning and new directions from within the mess itself. When I arrived at the meeting, I expected 5 or 6 people. Instead, the room was absolutely packed, smiling faces, eager, waiting for something to happen. We had a riveting conversation. The hunger for self-understanding was astonishing. I call that the power of self-attunement, internal awareness for your inner world and for your own safety signals. So important. And at the end, there was a strong wish to continue to learn. So we met again and we had an amazing talk. What are the kinds of topics you want to learn about? We want to learn new things. We want to visit the institutions we came from and see if and how things have changed. I want to learn about relationships. I want to learn how to be safe from abuse. I want to learn to read. I want to teach other people. I want to learn how to care. I want to learn about children so I can go and work in the kindergarten. I want to be a chef. I want love. The list went on. Then somebody asked, what should we call ourselves in this group? And Damien stood up proudly and he said, well, our house managers, who at the time were called house mothers, our house mothers call themselves the home life group. We are the real life group. And so the Real Life group was born. Get real, be real, do real. This I call the power of your inner direction, discovering and following your path. This is a power at the core for all of us. This is a human right. We created courses together, we chose topics, invited guest teachers, visited places of interest, many discussions then about what we had experienced and starting to reflect and make meaning. And out then came many more stories quite naturally versus in the therapy room, which is also good. But this natural helping each other through our histories was astounding. Even many of the co-workers started to join because they could sniff something interesting's going on in this room. This something that's intangible, this atmosphere that pull people in like a magnet, I call that the power of a numinous experience. Something in the atmosphere was just shifting. Leaders emerged, developing skills, asking for training as leaders that brought out their power of facilitating collaboration. They were there for their peers in times of need and gave helpful and important advice to the community leaders that was absolutely crucial to the path forward. Inner strength from surviving adversity is an inner power for the ability to bounce back from hardship with optimism and share your human lessons. So many people have said the thing that helped me the most to feel was relief was that I could teach my experiences to others, my own, never again. So, what did I learn? Something simple and profound. In a good atmosphere, with the right conditions, people want to learn and create their own futures. Individual learning experiences, this entire thing taught me, are inseparable from organisational culture. Organisational culture is inseparable from the wider social norms and values. And those norms shape policies, funding, expectations that privilege some and keep others out. The door is simply locked. There's an old Hawaiian saying, where attention goes, energy flows. It's an identity shift to rewire our mental and emotional circuitry, to see talents, inner powers, first within a messy situation, see potential where we once saw only a problem to be fixed, managed, or ignored. This involves developing what I call the inner power of love-based curiosity. Ask, learn, join, follow. And for this, we need to educate our own inner critics and the cultural ghosts spooking us all, telling us we cannot, the ableist ghosts who block us from deep access to the inner power of self-affirming beliefs. There's a whole layer of learning power that lives outside formal success that our guest students in this bachelor's course have been teaching us in the last 2 weeks in bucket loads. Street wisdom, resilience, hunger to try, the ability to read a room instantly, to know what's real and what's not, to be real and show real, to sense the atmosphere and go straight to where we need to go. There's my 1 minute. But we did start a few minutes late, so I'm going to grab a few more if I may. Is that okay? I'm nearly done. Would you allow me a few more minutes?
Yes.
To learn and teach each other through universal languages of dance, singing, creating projects, playing music together, to fail, to laugh, to bounce back and try again, even under the gaze of the perfectionist police. These are deep lessons and role modelling that many of us have experienced in these last couple of weeks. Yes, of course, intellectual learning and skills are vitally important, no question. Otherwise, we would not develop our ideas, new and complex ideas to grapple with. Assessments are important. Assignments are important. All of this is important, as I think you're going to speak a bit about that later. But here, the experiment is experience first. Jump in the river first, then theorize. What did we get and learn from that? Bringing in different perspectives of knowledge. Then, what practices can we make from that? What can we try? This is the learning environment that many, many more people can thrive in, as I've experienced in these weeks. I thrived in this environment as well. This brings me to the circuitry of ableism, which was woven into the entire South African culture, and the potent learning shift that started with Damien. Ableism is not just something that affects others, it affects all of us. Internalized ableism are the beliefs we absorb about ourselves and others that lead to shame, silence, or learned helplessness. Learned helplessness shows up as overhelping, which undermines autonomy. I don't think I'm the only person in the room who's flown in the Red Cross helicopter to fix something. Underhelping, assuming someone is fine where they're not, when they're not, which can lead to neglect. And simply wrongly helping, support based on assumptions that have nothing to do with reality. I've done all three many times, as I imagine you have too, or some of us. These patterns are not only personal failures, they're systemic and cultural ghost-like oppressors that serve two purposes. One, to make you think it's your fault, which weakens inner power. In an environment where we think it's our fault, it's easier to think it's my fault. Second, to block you from accessing your essence, where inner powers and shared humanity spring from. That's why this work can't be done alone. It requires all of us to be in all of this together. So I want to leave you with a question, if I may. The new inclusion that we're talking about needs a pattern change. We need to break the cycle of the burden falling on those already carrying the most burden. That's why it belongs to all of us. That's not justice, that's exhaustion. It's very tiring to lose access to your inner powers. The new inclusion includes the human right to dream, to different states of mind, to play, to learn and teach together, upside down learning. So my final question is, what if the end game isn't just to include people with intellectual disabilities in the existing system? What if we expanded the system itself? What if people with intellectual and developmental differences are forerunners of an expanded higher education that can work for many more people who learn through doing, moving, touching, sensing, relationship, the arts, and where expanded ways of learning and acquiring knowledge are not add-ons, but part of what we expect, we value, and we welcome. To my mind, that's a future worth building as allies. Medvandvera, together, Samen. Thank you.